Hey guys, Danny with Danny Gustin Fitness Podcast here with my co-host Nico Dato. Today we are talking about sleep, how much sleep you need, how it impacts muscle building if you're getting enough or not enough, the effects, short and long-term effects of caffeine, and how all these things build on each other throughout our days and some of the things we can do about it to make changes if we feel we need to. So today what we were thinking about talking about today is the topic of sleep.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of the people right now at the gym are, like you and Josh are pretty beat up, you said?
We were saying sore. I feel tired too, though. So, yeah, beat up is a pretty good word to use right now.
And then Josh was going off about how he feels just a lot of people are a little off today.
I had my client this morning overslept, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like just didn't make the appointment?
No, she did, just like a little behind.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And so, yeah, she's feeling tired and stuff too.
Yeah, and that's a topic that's come up a lot recently, this idea of how much sleep do people need, right? Like me and my client were joking the other day about, the American philosophy is sleep when you're dead, right? And obviously there's a lot of good that can come from work ethic and grinding it out, right?
Sure.
But I wanted to do a deeper dive today on where that can go wrong, especially in how it relates to building muscle, building strength, and just long-term and short-term health. Because I think this is a good thing for a lot of
people struggle with it.
And I know you're a little nervous about the caffeine topic,
Yeah.
right? So let's get into it. So the first question is, how much sleep do people need, right? And there's a lot of different ones here, but we don't have any infants and newborns in our audience or preschoolers. So we're going to go straight to teenagers, adults, and older adults. So teenagers, 8 to 10 hours a night. Adults, 7 to 9. Older adults, 7 to 8. I feel like that's...
Would you say you fall between those?
I would say I hit 6 more than I'm happy to admit.
That's where I'm at. It's more like 6.
Yeah.
Pretty regularly.
Pretty regularly 6?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like enough, but I don't know, lately, the last few months, it doesn't seem like it is. So kind of catches up, I think.
Well, especially, again, we're going to get into the caffeine topic later.
Right.
But that's a tricky one because we end up in this illusion sometimes that we're fine, but part of that is because we're drinking caffeine.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
it's like,
kinda holding us over.
Yeah, like someone might say, 5 hours a night for me. But then you ask them how much caffeine they drink, and they're like, 2 pots of coffee. It's like, well... it's like you're fine because you're drinking 2 pots of coffee, right? It's like a person going, yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I only drink half a case of beer a day. It's like, well, we should talk about that, right? But we'll get into that in a little bit more later. Hey guys, quick break here. Just want to ask you guys to like, subscribe, and share the content with others who you think would benefit if you found this video helpful or any of our videos. Also, please comment. At the end of the day, we do these videos for you. We love your feedback. We'll always reply to the comments in the comment section and keep them in mind for future videos. So, signs you might need more sleep. Difficulty waking up in the morning, daytime fatigue or drowsiness, trouble concentrating or remembering things, increased irritability or mood swings, and reliance on caffeine to stay alert. Where do you feel you fall with some of those?
No, I'm kidding. I will be honest. Right now, it's most of those. But that's only because I need to get on a better sleeping routine. Because the caffeine thing I struggled with in the past, but I've dialed it back.
Okay.
The last several months, actually.
How much caffeine do you think you were drinking before?
Probably around the limit of 400.
Okay.
And now it is more like 200, maybe 250.
What have you noticed since you started doing that?
Doing
like
less?
Like kind of less caffeine? Has it been positive for you? Has it been...
You want to know something? Yeah, it's positive in terms of like maybe less on the... moods, like this kind of stuff, crashing throughout the day, and less on the jittery feeling.
Yeah.
But, there's that aspect to it that it is a drug. And it's like, I don't like need it, but it's like it's like my body wants it at certain points in the day. Like when I get home from work or something, I might want to make an espresso,
Yeah.
But it might be 2 or 3. I try to not drink caffeine past 2 p.m. So now you're pushing it, where it could affect your sleep.
Yeah, and some of that is hard because it's even it's maybe not just caffeine. It's like the espresso might just be
It's like it's
routine
the
or
aesthetic of it, like the routine of it, like, and being Italian, like it's part of like culture to be drinking espresso
Yeah.
even after dinner. That's very common, and it's the process of like firing the machine up and
Yeah.
putting the beans in or whatever it
Yes.
is, you know.
It's all
the
of it.
smell of it,
Oh,
like
coffee smells so
yeah,
good.
so
yeah, and I think that I've heard the same is true for smokers.
I can see that.
It's
yeah.
it's like okay, it's not just that you're giving up this. It's that thing you do with your arm hanging out the window when you drive.
I can see that
It's that
for sure.
thing that you do and you go outside on your break and you're just kind of like
getting some fresh air,
and you're like looking
it's
off.
a break from work, so you're
and almost
associating
a meditative state.
Yeah, and you're associating that cigarette break with a break from work too, so you're pairing those two things, and it's like, your brain thinks it's a great thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Dang, those breaks. I remember I was pretty annoyed because I've never been a smoker, so I worked at a restaurant, and oftentimes the servers would take breaks.
Yeah.
They just go outside and smoke.
They do it often though,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I went out.
It's not like just one lunch break.
Yeah, I was a cook, so I
Yeah.
went out there once and I didn't have a cigarette with me, and the manager walks by and is like, "Danny, what are you doing out here?" I'm like,
I want a break too.
I'm like, "Can someone just give me a cigarette?" You know, like
I'll just
whatever.
hold it.
Yeah, I'll just hold it, right? So okay, so yeah, those are the things to look out for: difficulty waking up in the morning, daytime fatigue or drowsiness, trouble concentrating or remembering things, increased irritability or mood swings, reliance on caffeine to stay alert. All right, next would be quality of sleep, right? So we've all probably heard that, right? It's not just about hours slept or hours laying in a bed. It's
like sleep hygiene. I hear that word.
Yeah, sleep hygiene. I think that's a big one.
Yeah,
like
it is.
For me, one of the things that absolutely, and this just happened because I was in Texas and it was hot. If I have that film of sweat,
Oh, I can't do that.
like sometimes it's just, however the day works, I just, I didn't end up actually showering at the end of the day, but it's that little film.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
It's like, it's not quite like I was like sweating from like a workout or something like that. It's just a little bit of that layer. And it's so hard for me to get a good night of sleep when that happens. And it's weird because I get there and I'm like, I'm like, I should just go shower right now.
Yeah.
But then I'm in bed and I'm like, but I'm already here.
Yeah.
And then it's like, here we are. So all of those things, whether it be like the blue light,
That's a big one.
right,
for a lot of
avoiding
people.
screen time. So all those things play a big role.
Snoozing the alarm in the mornings, that's a big one that I've struggled with, and that's
Yeah.
a big one that affects sleep hygiene.
I heard a funny thing that said something like, great way to state your, something like, great job, you started your day by procrastinating.
Yeah, well, seriously, right?
With the snooze, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So, if you're physically active under high stress or recovering from illness or injury, your body may require even more rest. That makes sense because I definitely know there's times where, whether it be from jujitsu or just a really hard workout, I end up feeling like, oh man, the next day it's like that, like almost feeling of waking up from a coma.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what that's like, but you know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah.
like, I just woke up from deep sleep,
Yeah.
even though it's the normal time that I'm always waking up. So, and that's a tough one, I think, because I think in life we all like these formulas and consistency. Like, oh, I sleep 6 hours, but that may ebb and flow.
Right.
Right? You may need to sleep more like 9 hours
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
It just all depends.
I'll say this real quick because this fits into what we're talking about with muscle gain and all that. But I notice sometimes on weekends I tend to get more sleep.
Okay.
And when I wake up, it could be a mental thing, but I feel like my muscles are like almost like I have a pump.
Okay.
Is that weird? Have you ever experienced like?
I think so. I know what you mean.
And I'm like wondering. I'm like, is it because maybe with the deeper sleep, more sleep, my muscles recovered better, or something? I don't know. It's just an interesting observation I've noticed.
Well, part of when you're sleeping, that's when your body's recovering.
Right. And that's why I put two and two together and be like, I think they're better rested and repaired and rebuilding. And getting the full 8 hours. Usually I sleep like 8, sometimes even 9 on weekends. And I'm like, that's kind of eye-opening sometimes.
And do you feel like do you typically have a workout that was near that?
Yeah, for sure. Either on Thursday or Friday.
I could see.
I work out both of those days, Thursday and Fridays.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that's if you think about it, part of the pump is inflammation,
Yep.
right? And so you need a certain level of your body breaking down
Yeah.
to bounce back.
Yep.
Right. And maybe part of what's happening is when we're sleeping, we don't allow ourselves to have enough time to go through those alternating
and
cycles of breaking down and building up.
muscle gain, you know.
I've seen it all the time with clients where it's
I have
like,
too.
you know, you look at the different variables, whether it's eating enough or working out hard enough. That's usually not the issue for a lot of people. I feel like it's the recovery in between that, and the nutrition in between that often is the thing that's really holding people back. Because yeah, I mean, you could be a high performing person and have an incredible work ethic, but if you're only sleeping 5 hours a night,
It'll completely sabotage your progress, I think.
and
I've
I think
seen it.
people hate hearing that.
Yeah.
Because it's that one thing.
Because they might be like, it can't be that. That's sabotaging the progress. Yeah, it can.
And it's the one thing you can't will yourself through.
Right.
You actually have to sleep X amount of time.
Yep.
Where there's really no getting
there's
around
no way to
it.
cheat it.
Like all of the bodybuilders I've ever followed or known, like when I mean bodybuilders, I'm talking guys who are they are true bodybuilders professionally, right? And they'll be the first to tell you they sleep like 10, 11 hours a night. Now they're on gear and all sorts of other stuff, but that just goes to show you how serious they are about recovery.
Look at professional athletes. That sometimes they say their sleep schedules, and it's pretty tailored to them, or you know, consistent, and it's a lot of sleep sometimes.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly. So, anyways, moving on. How does not sleeping enough impact muscle and strength building? So we already kind of touched on that a little bit. So the short answer, a lot. And so there's a few mechanisms at play. So
The
one
growth
of them
hormone's a big one.
would be hormonal disruption. So we were just talking about that with the growth hormone. So, or just the different hormones playing at sleep. So growth hormone, like testosterone, is an anabolic hormone, and meaning it builds you back up. You break your muscle down from a workout, and then it builds back up even greater.
Yeah.
Right? And so growth hormone is one of those big, very powerful anabolic hormones, and it is mostly released while you're sleeping. And so if you skimp on it, there's going to be consequences to that. So I think that's a big part of the aspects of intermittent fasting, right?
I was just going to say the only other, there's probably multiple ways to activate growth hormone, but that's the other one I've heard is fasting.
There you go. So cortisol, again, sometimes people think cortisol is a bad thing, but it's because cortisol breaks down tissues, but where our body needs that, it's just when things are out of whack, right? But too much cortisol in our body is not necessarily a good thing. So sleep deprivation increases that stress hormone, which breaks down muscles and impairs recovery.
Yep.
And then finally, testosterone levels drop with poor sleep, and testosterone is critical for both muscle gain and strength. So one of the things I think that's interesting about this is already you hear these things and we know how important that is, right? But there's still a part of my brain that's like,
Me too, yeah.
I'm not like converted,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm like, that's all good, that all makes sense, but I'm still not necessarily gonna make sure I get 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Well, especially when you're busy people like we are, or professional, whatever it is, working in corporate, whatever, where it's like you have a lot to do, and you're like, oh, this takes priority over getting to bed an extra hour earlier.
Yeah.
I've done that before, where I'm like, I have to work on this thing that I want to get done, or whatever it is, or I can go to sleep at the goal time I have for myself.
Yeah.
But I'm like, how big of a deal really is it if I push it back an hour? And that's where that mindset, I think, happens.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that's so much of fitness and what we deal with as coaches is just people struggling with conflicting motivations.
Yeah, right.
It's not always black and white. Now, the bodybuilder, a great example of why they sleep so much is that's their only job.
That's their job.
Their job is to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, you better sleep.
Yeah.
Right? You better do what you need to do to build muscle.
Yeah.
Right? So, moving on, number 2 factor that is going to play a role in why sleep hinders muscle growth, strength gains, exercise performance if you're not getting enough of it, is the impaired muscle recovery.
So kind of talked about that a bit already.
Yeah. So it's when your body repairs all the micro tears from the muscle fibers. So again, increases soreness, delays progress, and raises the injury risk. That one I didn't really think about as much, but it does make sense.
Makes complete sense.
It's like you keep beating it down and beating it down and beating down. It's just only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Right?
Makes total sense.
Weaker performance in the gym. So lack of sleep affects strength and power output, less weight lifted, reaction time and coordination. And that's not just the fitness, right? They even talk about that with driving, right? Like driving sleep deprived is similar in some ways to driving drunk.
Yeah.
You know, it's like because you're just,
disoriented.
Everything's just disoriented, a little bit slower. Motivation, that's an obvious one. And endurance. So last two here, less protein synthesis. So sleep is when muscle protein synthesis peaks. So that's an interesting one. Because I know it happens throughout the day, but
I didn't really think about that one as much.
So it almost seems like all of those things that involve building your body up are mostly happening while you sleep.
Specifically, probably, I could be wrong, but like deep sleep.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's REM and deep that it's so important.
I think that's where most repairing happens. Not just muscle, but like even mental and things like that.
Isn't there something to that where when you're in a dream, that's part of why you can't move?
Because it's so deep.
Because your body's like totally turned off.
Right, that makes sense.
Like, have you ever been in a dream where you wanted to fight back or something or run and it's like you're moving in sludge?
Yeah, that could be why. That makes sense, yeah.
I want to look that up, but it's only so much time. So 5, increased cravings and poor nutrition choices. Was there anything more on the protein synthesis? No, I think that's good. So increased cravings and poor nutrition choices. So that is a big one. I definitely remember reading a lot about that in my nutrition coaching course, where especially if your goal is to lose weight, right? You want to lose body fat, and you may be the type of person who part of your issue is overeating, right? Not sleeping enough is a double whammy, because it's not just one hormone that is going to kick you. You're going to get the 1-2 punch from another hormone. So ghrelin is the hormone our bodies release when we're hungry.
Okay.
An easy way to remember that is ghrelin sounds like growling, right? Like your stomach's growling, right? Yep. Ghrelin, growling, right? And leptin is the hormone that controls feeling satiated.
Okay.
So what's a trip is... Oh, yeah, it's right there. It's actually one of the next things coming up. So what's a trip is ghrelin increases when you're sleep deprived and leptin decreases.
And that's what you mean, like double whammy.
Yeah, it's not just one is happening. Both happen.
Yeah.
So you're not only going to feel hungrier.
That's crazy.
But you're actually going to feel less satiated when you actually do eat.
That's nuts.
So, and I'm sure everyone's experienced that, when you're sleep deprived, you're stressed.
Agitated,
that's when we tend to make those worse choices.
Yeah, maybe you want to snack a little more or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's an interesting one. We'll talk about this later, but it's like this cycle that we end up getting into.
Yeah.
Of okay,
that could very
not
easily become
enough,
a cycle.
and then there's this, and then there's that. So, bottom line is, most of us really probably should be sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. But hey, we all got to do our best.
Go to sleep.
And deal with
Turn this podcast off and go to sleep.
Exactly. Actually, just keep playing it while you're sleeping. So, what are short and long... Okay, so why we're going to transition to this next part is, okay, this idea of I need to get enough sleep, but one of the things Nico and I were talking about is, okay, but what do most of us do? Most of us just drink caffeine, right? You need to get through your day. Need to, right? So what do? Handy dandy caffeine, right?
Quick and easy, yeah.
Coffee, energy drinks, etc., right? So we're going to start things off with what are the short and long-term side effects of caffeine. So again, this isn't to say anything about, hey, we're bad for drinking caffeine. It's just to put a perspective on the choices we're making and maybe how some of these domino effects are playing out in our life, right? Especially if these things are important to us, right? If you are the kind of person who has noticed you've been irritable maybe with your spouse lately or your kids or maybe you have been having those midday crashes or you're
Mood
working
swings,
hard, you're working out hard and you're not getting anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's more or less just saying, hey, let's take a step back and look at everything and then make an educated decision from there. So sorry, Nico, we're going to have to go through the side effects of caffeine. So short-term side effects of too much caffeine. Jitters and anxiety, overstimulation of the nervous system can cause shakiness, restlessness, or panic attacks. I wouldn't say this is a bad thing, but I even noticed just from a small amount of caffeine, I just have a small amount of tremors in my hand. Not to the point where I can't hold anything.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Departed?
Sounds familiar, but I don't know if I have.
It's a great movie,
Is
man.
it? Okay.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio. Anyways, but at one point he's like, do you see this hand? Do you see how steady it is? And it's a badass scene. And his hand's totally still. I feel like I can never do that. My hand's always, can you just do it? See, there's a little tremble in there. Look at it, guys.
Oh, crap. That's not good.
I don't know what it means. It means we're not as cool as Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
So overstimulation, right?
Yeah.
Cause shakiness, restlessness, or even panic attacks.
Yeah.
Increased heart rate, palpitations or a racing heart, especially noticeable in sensitive individuals. Insomnia or poor sleep. Caffeine can disrupt both falling and staying asleep, even if consumed earlier in the day. So here's one of the things that's kind of interesting about that to me is I know someone close to me who would say caffeine doesn't affect him. But
I've heard that before.
But in the next breath, he'll talk about how he sleeps like crap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, have you ever thought about how because he drinks a lot of caffeine. I'm like, did you ever think about putting these pieces of the puzzle together here? Digestive issues. If it stimulates acid production, leading to heartburn, nausea, or stomach upset. Frequent urination or dehydration. It's a mild diuretic, which can increase bathroom trips. Headaches. Too much or withdrawal from caffeine can trigger headaches or migraines. High blood pressure. Temporary spikes blood pressure, particularly in those not used to it, right? So anything you want to go over with any of those?
No.
Yeah? You're like, I don't want to talk about it, man. Long-term or chronic overconsumption. So I was interested to do this one because I think we all kind of understand short-term effects of caffeine a little bit more, right? Like, we all kind of know, all right, I'm going to be a little bit more restless, a little bit more wired, right? But not as often that we think about the long-term effects.
Yeah.
I knew a guy in my training, when I went to school for training, he had this disease involving adrenal fatigue. And part of that was from part of his time in college. He was just working so hard to study and he was not sleeping. He was regularly not sleeping enough.
Just all the bad things.
And regularly
stress.
Drinking tons of caffeine and under a lot of stress.
It's just a recipe for disaster.
And he ended up in this long-term
Yeah.
adrenal fatigue to where he had to completely change how he ate, all sorts of things. I wish I knew what it was called, but I can't remember at the top of my head. But that was kind of freaky.
That is, yeah.
Right? But kind of, again, though, like I hear it, and then it's one of those things that I'm like, well, that happens to other people.
Yeah.
That won't happen to me. So while not medically recognized, many people report feeling burned out from chronic stimulation. I think, again, while not medically recognized, I think even I notice that even with phones and things like that. Just sometimes when I'm too stimulated.
Overstimulated, yeah.
It's just like
I'm the same way.
It's a feeling of just I feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Blunted energy signals. You can become less sensitive to natural cues for rest and energy. Caffeine dependence, needing it just to function normally. Skipping it causes withdrawal, which could manifest like fatigue, inability, irritability, brain fog. Disrupted hormone and appetite can suppress hunger unnaturally or increase cravings later. Right, I think that's an important one because a lot of people know if you smoke or take Adderall or drink coffee, right, that can suppress your appetite.
Yeah.
But the body always has this way of kind of going, whoop. So it's going to get you later at some point, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Worsened anxiety or depression in susceptible individuals, caffeine can magnify symptoms. So signs you're having too much, you need it to feel normal, not alert. You crash hard after it wears off. You can't fall. I definitely noticed that one. Not all the time, but when I know I'm not sleeping enough on a regular basis, around that 1 or 2 o'clock time frame where the caffeine's starting to wear off, and I literally feel like I go fall asleep.
Like crash,
unless I drink more caffeine.
Yeah.
That's definitely a sign where I'm like, I need to sleep. But what's interesting is, and what sucks is, I need to sleep, but I can't sleep because I'm at work. So I'm going to drink caffeine, which is going to make it harder for me to just go to bed later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. It's that cycle we're talking about.
Exactly.
And a lot of people struggle with that, I think.
I think most people probably struggle with it. You feel wired and baseline anxiety or restlessness is higher than usual. So healthy guidelines for caffeine is 400 milligrams a day or less is considered. So you know your stuff, Nico. All right. You got that down.
Trust me, I looked into it.
Cut off caffeine 6 to 8 hours before bed.
Yeah.
Try cycling caffeine use or reducing intake gradually if you're feeling it. I always try to drink a little caffeine, less caffeine on the weekends. Do you ever try that?
I drink probably more on weekends.
Oh, really?
Because it's available, you know.
It's just something to do.
Yeah, so.
This is just becoming Nico's intervention. So one of the things when I was doing my research on this earlier for this is I saw the 400 milligram being like, oh, that's a normal natural upper limit. And I'm like, I don't know. 400? That's like almost 2 Starbucks coffees.
Yep.
Right? Like a normal 6 to 8 ounce cup. Like if we're talking about a small mug, that's 80-ish milligrams.
Yeah.
So that's 5 of those. So I don't know. Going back to that, there's always this, sort of swing later, right? This recalibration or to achieve balance in our bodies, right? You give, you take, right? I was wondering, I wanted to dive a little bit more into that to just see, okay, well, what does that really mean to say 400 milligrams is considered safe, right? And so caffeine works, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you're saying that when you read 400, you thought like that's...
Still seems high.
Seems high, okay.
Right, like there has to be some effect
having 5 coffees
happening.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah, and it still seems like there must be some effect.
Right.
Right, I think a lot of people might read that and go, oh, great, I can drink up to 400, and they might be able to.
Yeah.
But I think for some people, that's still, there's some things they have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyways, going back into that homeostasis and caffeine, what really happens, right? So homeostasis is just your body achieving balance, right? So caffeine works primarily by blocking adenosine receptors. Adenosine is a neurotransmitter that builds up during the day to make you feel tired. So your caffeine basically just suppresses it. So your body senses this and adapts. It may upregulate adenosine receptors over time, which that's kind of interesting. And maybe that's part of what my buddy had going on.
Probably.
Just keeps building, right? And that's why that's why you build your tolerance, right?
Yeah.
So why is 400 considered safe? Safe just means it doesn't typically lead to acute health risks. It's unlikely to cause dependence or major side effects if spaced out over the day. And if it doesn't significantly impair sleep, digestion, or mood in people who metabolize caffeine well, it's probably okay. Right. But it doesn't mean neutral. So it still does raise cortisol and adrenaline. It alters sleep architecture, so less deep sleep, even if you fall asleep fine. Excuse me. Disrupts hydration and mineral absorption and leads to dependency in many people. So I feel like the bottom line there is just you have to just look at some of the things that are happening for you in your life. If you have a bit of this concern that maybe you are drinking too much caffeine or you're not sleeping enough, and just take some of these cues and experiment.
Yeah.
right?
See how you feel and what works, what doesn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, so going back to kind of what you were saying earlier, maybe we can end on this is what have you noticed just by experimenting with like different caffeine consumptions?
Yeah, I mean, to summarize, just like differences in my energy, obviously, in my sleep and mood, kind of these things we've listed off, honestly, you know?
So did you feel when you dropped from 400 to 200, you did withdrawal a bit?
Yeah, for sure.
But did it
100%.
eventually come back? Did you eventually feel like you were able to sleep better, feel less irritable?
I think I'm still trying to figure that out, like
Yeah.
figure out the balance of it. Because it
Yeah.
also might not be, caffeine. It could be something else
Could be
affecting.
other factors.
Like I do sometimes struggle with the snoozing thing.
Yeah.
And that seems to really mess me up, like to where when I first wake up, I'm ready to go. And then if I do snooze and sleep another 10, 30 minutes, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I feel a million times worse when I wake back up.
Okay.
So, and then there's like the sleep cycles and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
anyways, I'm just kind of looking into all that
Okay.
to see if it is caffeine or something else.
And I think that's a great way to put it is
Yeah.
you got to look at it.
Yeah.
If it's something that's important to you and you just start pulling that string,
Yep.
right? Where's this taking me, right? And you'll probably learn some different
You'll
things.
figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll figure it out and it's probably going to take time.
Yeah.
It's going to take time to find that sweet spot. But
Sure.
I do think if you feel that you may be in this cycle of, and I've seen a lot of people go through this, I've gone through this, you're not sleeping enough, so you drink caffeine, and you have to drink caffeine to get through the day, which means really without caffeine, you probably would have crashed at 8 p.m., but instead you were up like normal till like 10 or 11, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you're eating worse.
Yeah.
Right, and then
Yep.
you kind of feel worse from eating worse, and sometimes it's just this. It's like
a
this
cycle, yeah.
snowball effect that builds, right? So, I think ultimately what we try to convey to people is, hey, listen, we're all adults here. We can make the best decisions for ourselves. They're not good or bad or evil or good, right? Decisions. It's more or less just, hey, follow your intuition. Get the education you need to make the right decision for you, experiment with it over time, and hopefully that leads to you being in a better place than you are today.